Financial Law put this out on X and said, the Federal Reserve has already set the stage for another banking crisis for it by intentionally pulling away BTFP liquidity at the worst possible time. The general public just isn't aware yet. So when you start to look at this, you could see that something definitely is going on, and they've done this before. This is not the first time. But think about as the entire economic system completely crashes and you see the fiat currency continually losing value because of inflation, which means the currency is devaluing. What do you see happening right now? You see gold and Bitcoin, silver, moving up. The Kobesi letter again said, for the first time in decades, gold and bonds are trading in complete opposite directions. This all began in 2022 when gold prices began pricing in a potential drop in real estate. This was largely driven by the speculation that inflation would return. Now inflation is back, and gold has a historic 400 over the last few weeks. This comes even as 4 interest rate cuts have been removed from the market forecast. Gold is trading in a world of its own. Very interesting. A world of its own. That's very, very interesting. So what do you think is happening right now? You're starting to see the world. They're realizing what? That everything's falling apart. It's completely imploding on itself. Sluzzcat put this out on X and said, I think the world is also starting to realize that the West isn't arbitrarily able to dictate the price of gold for much longer. While that fight is not over, price discovery on gold is increasingly being determined in the East, while almost every central bank on the planet is buying gold. The West is asleep. Why would the central banks buy gold? I thought fiat currency was king. Why do you need gold? Oh, that's right. It's a hedge against their pieces of paper because they know that gold, that holds its value. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And what have they been doing this entire time? They've been keeping gold down with what? The paper market. Because can you imagine, let's say they didn't have the paper market and they allow gold to do what it always does. And gold was at $25,000 an ounce. And people saw gold continually moving up, going from the 70s all the way up to now. And they saw, hey, look, gold's at 1,000, gold's at 2,000 in the 80s, gold's at 5,000 in the 90s, hit 2,000, gold's at 10,000. You think people would start to question the central bank system? Of course they would. This is why they needed to control it all. This is why they couldn't allow the people to understand what was really going on. This is why they changed the inflation calculations. This is why they changed the GDP calculations. This is why they changed the unemployment calculations. This is why the Fed doesn't want to be audited. This is why they don't want you to see the gold. This is why they use the paper market to control the gold market and keep it suppressed, because they didn't want you to know what was really happening. They kept you in their illusionary economy and you were a slave to it, and they wanted payment from their slaves. And that is in the form of taxes. So gold is shooting up. Silver is shooting up. And the Kobesi letter says, this is very strange. Gold is now up 30% in 6 months, posting one of its best 6-month gains in history. However, during this time period, 4 rate cuts have been priced out, and the U.S. dollar just hit its highest since November 2023. Meanwhile, risk on investor appetite is at an all-time high, and crypto just hit an all-time high. Every single factor that has historically led to lower gold prices is happening now, except for 2 key factors. Central banks are stocking up on gold, and geopolitical tensions are skyrocketing. When gold is behaving so strangely, it leads you to one key question. Does someone know something? Yeah, they do. And gold is continually moving up. Silver is continually moving up, and Bitcoin is continually moving up. I think this tells you everything you need to know of what's going on. Now, this doesn't mean the central banks aren't going to try to control all of this, because remember, if they completely and utterly lose control at this point, what do you think people are going to notice? The people are going to say, well, wait a minute, something's going on. I mean, there's a lot of people already. They understand that something's going on. This is why they're buying gold from Costco. I mean, if people didn't think something was going on, they wouldn't buy the gold bars at Costco. Yes, they would have a couple of sales, but they wouldn't have $100 million, $200 million worth of sales if people thought everything was okay. Which tells you everything you need to know. People think there's a problem. People are feeling something is wrong in this system. And what they're feeling is they're feeling the private West central bank system completely and utterly breaking down. And they're getting prepared and ready to bring us where? Into the Great Reset. Now,